Let's get rolling. It is a small group today, and I did know that. Henry, come on up here. Or sit where you please.
Sit over here with us.
We knew that it was going to be a small group. Others, a couple of people are tied up on some quarterly meetings that fell today, and Karen is very busy with the holiday season. Pete could not be here today, and a couple of folks are out of town. So for those watching, there's only 3 here. We'll still do our usual. If you need to take a break, it's down the hall to the right. If you need to vacate this room for any reason whatsoever, it's out the front door, hang a left, and we'll gather around back with all the other folks from here. So let's go ahead and do our introductions.
Henry Weintraub, Express Car Wash Consultants, sitting on a different place today.
I know, yeah, it's kind of like odd. But
the first shall be last and the last shall be first.
Okay.
Morgan Butler with the Southern Environmental Law Center.
Mark Graham, Albemarle County.
Lou Hatter, VDOT Communications.
Al Jones, VDOT Charlottesville Residency.
Linda Culloch, VDOT IT Support.
Debbie McKenna, VDOT Company.
Joel Denunzio, VDOT Charlottesville Residency.
all righty. I don't know if a small group will make the meeting go any faster, but we can always give it a try. In terms of the viewers from last week, I got to think this isn't right, but these are the numbers. These are the numbers we got. I don't know that there's any reason to think that from our last meeting we went from 7 to 34 viewers. I actually believe that was a combined number from whatever VDOT might have had going with live streaming.
It's possible, but we have had a couple of weeks of challenges being able to view that particular online presentation using Internet Explorer. It requires Chrome.
Okay.
And so we could have had a community out there who couldn't get on one.
All right.
And so it may have made
It may have been. But anyway, those are the numbers. Those are the numbers that were reported in from 2 weeks ago. For the comments from the last 2-week period, there were 5 combos of emails and phone calls. One asked about why, and actually that was John Warner Parkway, Berkmar and Hillsdale, are 2-lane roads instead of 4-lane roads. Most of you all know the history with John Warner Parkway, and know that from a transportation planning point of view, there were decisions made on Hillsdale. Berkmar is 2 lanes being constructed on 4 lanes of right-of-way. So that takes care of that one. The SPCA asked for permission to trim some trees. I think they were on a piece of former bypass right-of-way and are moving out some containers that they had on the property.
They were leasing a piece of property that had been purchased for the bypass, and the lease was terminated because the property is going to be disposed of.
Yeah.
So they were working on cleaning up the property and getting it ready for vacation.
Right. And I think they got the permission they needed to do what they needed to do to get their stuff there. One came in to Lou, but a couple came in to me about the traffic signal mast arm at Rio northbound. At Rio northbound, having some excessive movement in it, and it did, and that's been dampened. That seems to have been taken care of. One noted that there's a bump on Route 29 northbound south of Hollymead, suggested that a bump sign should be there, and I think Lane Corman has a bump sign, bump ahead or whatever those things say out there. Another one, and the team and I have talked about this a bit. Another comment came in about the lane shifts as vehicles approach the GSI and not knowing which lane to be in for the through lanes or or the local lanes. I'm still of the opinion that nothing additional should be done there now. I don't think it's a pervasive issue. I believe, based on my observations, which certainly aren't that as frequent as your observations, but I don't think it's a pervasive issue from the collective observations we've seen. I'm not, at least personally, I'm not to a point where I believe that adding more signs is an answer. So I think that's something we just need to continue to watch. You know, Morgan, you had suggested at one point, well, maybe on those signs that say Rio Road, 631, a half mile ahead, we put keep right. And we need to keep that in our mind. Some folks have suggested another set of the pavement markings. And I mentioned to Joel, we need to keep that in mind. But I also think we need to be patient a bit longer to see how things settle out. I don't know if Henry, Mark, if you have any thoughts.
Well, I'll just speak up then. I have been watching with some interest two movements that are weave movements, and one is people going northbound who used the through lanes and then try to cut over to the gardens entrance.
Yes.
That's one movement I picked up on.
Yeah.
So I've seen a couple of people do it, and they're getting away. They seem to be getting away with it, but it's a little.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the southbound people doing a right turn on red from coming out of Colonial Auto and trying to get into the through lanes. So those are two movements that I've kind of observed that I haven't seen anything really scary yet. But I have seen some people doing things that at least raise my eyebrows.
Yeah. You know, gardens, of course, this only applies to people looking for directions or using GPS for traffic routing. And you might remember we talked about that before. Yes. We've gotten all the information to Google, who's, for as great as they are, their feedback loop sometimes isn't the quickest. And Lou, through the traffic operations people, Lou is working with them to get that local lane designation extended. Right now, Google has it coded in as use the local lane up to Albemarle Square to the north. And what we want them to do is extend that local lane direction to Gardens to the north, but to Burkmar to the south, so that anybody using Google Maps or the other Waves and whatever else is out there these days would get that direction to. If you're south of Rio and you ask for directions to Albemarle Square, it tells you to use the Rio Road exit. If you ask for directions to I-99, it says take 29 north and hang right at Gardens Boulevard. So to the extent that that changes behavior any, at least it would for that. And, you know, we've had some comments, or at least I've had a couple of calls from some people, and the Secretary's office has had a couple of calls, saying essentially, well, folks are confused and don't know that if you get off on the local lane and keep going, it ties back to Route 29. Intuitively, maybe I've been around too long to think, well, what would you think it does? I mean, it's still an intersection there, and if someone wanted to take the local lane to go to Gardens Boulevard or to go to Albemarle Square, it clearly continues back on to Route 29. So I guess I feel like that's also, I don't think, a pervasive issue. And
yeah, I would just say that I'm not convinced it's people necessarily relying on a GPS.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
directions. I get, at least some that I've seen cutting into the gardens, I got the impression they were people who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
They were making a deliberate decision on
Yeah.
their part to avoid a traffic signal.
Sure,
And then see if they could cut over.
yeah.
I certainly think in off-peak hours, you feel pretty comfortable doing that. If there's a lot of traffic in those local lanes coming down that, it's not.
Right.
If you're in the right lane in the through traffic and it's not a heavy time period of the day, it's tight, but it's not hard to make that move.
Yeah, it's just, you're taking a guess on what the traffic is.
Calculated.
Right.
You're taking a calculated risk.
Yeah.
Lou?
Or uncalculated risk.
I've seen a similar movement coming out of Fashion Square, that northern right out, people going across the Gore area and into the through lanes a couple of times. So, but I don't know that there's any way, I mean, we can't really prohibit.
Yeah.
There's nothing really you can do about that. If someone wants to take a chance like that, then.
I mean, that's marked right in and right out, right?
Yeah.
Well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Same thing with coming out of Gardens and hanging a left, I guess, at Woodbrook. That's a pretty short distance.
That's a scary one. I tried
Yeah.
that once.
Yeah.
I'm not trying it again.
This is just my own personal opinion. It wasn't scary-free before. Still a lot of lanes of traffic there, that folks were weaving through. Now those movements are separated, so it changes it up a little. It certainly changes it up a bit.
Bill, going back to that particular issue.
Yeah.
The pavement markings that are in place now, they're shields, right? Are there any?
I think one is a state shield,
Right.
and the 631s are the round county route, local route shield
I wonder if
symbol.
something like through and local, putting the wording might.
That's an idea. I do think the second set of pavement markings are a tad bit wasted, because if you're not at the right spot then, we shouldn't be encouraging anybody to make a move. I mean, they are where, if you kind of follow the big thick book, say they should be, but we may want a third set in advance, and that could be another option. Now, let's do think, what we're talking about now is something that if we did do something else, it would be done under some other terms. Well, I guess we'll still have lane corpsmen around that. This project, the RIO GSI project, we will be finaling here in a couple of weeks. But that's an idea too.
I'm not sure the shields necessarily mean much to.
Well, the numbers are in there too. It's the shield of 29, and then the local route was 631.
Something to think about.
Yeah, it is. Nothing new on the website. That I think that, as we know, that was hot and heavy during the time when before we awarded the contract, and that slowed up quite a bit. No calls to the project hotline. One call did come in directly to Lane Corman, and it was about dust and dust control on Berkmar. And I think Chris Reed called the person back. I know he called them back and left a message for them to call him back. So. All righty. Some things left over from last time, the landscaping plant list at RIO. We'll talk about that in Agenda Item 8. And another update on 2015 versus 2016 accidents, and we'll talk about that at Agenda Item 10. Your thoughts or ideas for December or next year? Henry?
No, I don't have any for December. continue a little bit about weaves and whatever.
Mhm.
When you make that continuous right turn going northbound from
Yes.
Briarwood, it's always a little bit dicey. I mean, it is, you have people wanting to get into Almar Square, and you want to get on a lane that will get you north, and you know that the right lane will get you somewhere to pull around, so it will not get you where you really need to go. So that's still, you know, a little bit of a thing. In a way, it's not dissimilar from what happens in the Cloverleaf. You have people wanting to get on the exit ramp,
Yeah.
except a lot of people don't visualize that this is like a Cloverleaf.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit dicey, and I'm going to start working with Phil on some signage, safety signage, that may help a little bit on that issue.
I'm sorry you're going to work on that. But that's
I'm going to work with Joe because he knows the stuff.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah.
on this one.
Yeah.
But he'll probably tell you, and I can show you too.
There goes Joel's bag of oranges that I was going to give him for
No,
Christmas.
he'll-
No, I'm teasing. Hey, Henry, you brought a lot of good ideas to the table, so you get no argument from me.
I mean, it's way scaled down from the original ideas because we found out that the rules don't allow that. But
Yeah.
there are other signs that the rules allow that are used, for example, when you go northbound on 29 and you approach Greene County, there is a Sheetz gas station,
Uh-huh.
and it directs traffic to make a right turn and get into the Sheetz station rather than going straight across the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that idea, I mean, they
Okay.
inspired me by just watching it. And I think it's also on the Sheetz station that is in Madison County, where it tells people where to go.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's applicable, and because I still think there are some safety concerns. And if you can get traffic to go into Almar Square through Ryer Road, we take a little bit of that potential weave away.
Yes, on Rye Road.
Getting on the Ryer Road entrance to Almar
Yeah.
Square rather
Yeah.
than, getting in on 29.
Yeah, okay,
Now, it's not
okay,
that people want.
okay.
It encourages people to.
Well, in all seriousness, I mean, feel free to take it up with Joel,
Yeah.
but also feel free to bring it out here too. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways to accomplish goals.
We're trying to do it within the rules. Since I think
All right, there you go, there you go. Okay, thank you.
There wouldn't be as extensive either.
Yeah.
It'd be just 2 panels, not 4.
Okay, all right. All right,
Thank you.
fine, okay, all right. Let's look at the percents complete. Rio is racing to the finish. The wall staining is done, and Dave is at another making a presentation actually this afternoon, and he may or may not drop by. But I would say I think the wall staining really turned out
Can I ask
well.
you about the wall staining?
Yeah.
The wall staining is not done the same way it's done at the 255 panels. I don't know if you noticed. Now, I think you told me you're somewhat colorblind. Sometimes
I'm not somewhat colorblind. I do good looking at this chart.
If you
Trust me.
look carefully, at Rio Road, there are only 2 colors.
Mhm.
If you look carefully on the 255 pass, there are at least 4 or 5. So something is not exactly the same pattern. And I wondered maybe they're not finished yet, but now you tell me.
No, it's finished. No, it's finished.
You
It's
say it's finished,
finished.
then maybe I'm going colorblind too. But,
Well,
it's not the same color pattern.
it may not be the same color pattern, but it's the varieties are the same color palette, maybe.
No, it's
is
just
the
2
right-
colors. And I cannot tell you exactly how many,
Yeah.
but it's definitely more than 2. It's definitely 3, 4, or 5. And somebody may want to look into this.
I don't.
I'm smiling because my reaction was almost the opposite.
I-
So I'm an engineer, so don't trust me on design.
Well, so am I.
But I actually thought the one at Rio looked more natural than the one down at McIntyre, but.
Oh, okay.
I
That's
mean-
a different argument.
You know, what Lane Corman eventually contracted Hunt Valley specifically for, I'd be the first to say, I don't know exactly. You know, I know they were told we want something similar to what was at McIntyre, and they may have chosen to use from that palette fewer colors. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. We could ask that question.
I think the wall in 250 also has the same pattern as the intersection at McIntyre. But here it's a different, I say, it's reduced. That's why I thought, oh, okay, they do this first and then they go and put in some.
No, it's
extra
finished. So
Okay, well,
it's finished.
somebody may want to look into it.
Okay, I'll ask, certainly. I'll
I'm
ask.
an engineer too, so.
I'll ask.
The only excuse I have is my grandfather was an architect, my son is. That's all I have.
I'm a history major, so what do I know?
Okay.
But I do think, that notwithstanding, personal opinion, I think it looks nice, and it's something that came from this panel, is something to do.
I get my wife's opinion.
Yeah,
You
okay.
own an art gallery.
Okay, okay.
While we're on this.
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm what I thought I understood last time, is that down at the 29250, those will not be done till next spring?
That's what I understand. No, or they might,
Well, is that different?
that's right. Lou,
They were talking this morning that they.
oh, they're talking this morning that they're gonna get them done before?
They're-
Okay.
It's daytime work, so my understanding is they feel as long as the temperatures are acceptable, that they can go ahead and work on those sound walls down at 250.
Okay, great. So that just came out of your morning meeting?
Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's fine.
They are calling for above normal winter temperatures this year, so.
Okay,
Keep
okay.
you posted on that.
All right. Yeah, do. Thank you. The punch list is almost finished. I think the final inspection's really down to around a couple of things on signals.
Signals is the biggest thing. There are a few little pieces that they had done and finished up a pothole or two and some.
Yeah.
rubber pavement.
So remember, December 2nd is the final date here for Rio. And even after 40-some years, it still amazes me that I can be standing here from February of 2015 to December of 2016, from 0 to 100.
So is VDOT going to do all their projects this fast?
There's a lot of folks on the third floor at VDOT saying, why not? Now, you can't do everything. The trick is to do it in the right amount of time, right? You don't want to hurry up and finish the wrong project. So, but in terms of this project and minimizing disruption, there's a chief engineer and commissioner at VDOT asking that same question, like, why not? How do we take this other places?
Well, it was very unique in the sense that it was done very quickly. It was done well and quickly.
Yeah.
No question about it. Later on, when we talk about Hillsdale Extended, I think there's an opportunity to do something well and fast and maybe less intrusive. We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
If there's a chance.
Okay. Route 29 widening, about the same on the phase 4, got started. The phase 2 grading and draining wrapped up, and this phase 3 and 5 also pumped up in percent complete. On Berkmar, continue to work on the roadway construction, and actually that's pacing pretty well ahead of schedule. The deck construction up to 50%. Actually, probably safe to say that's more than 50% complete. On Hillsdale, the partial building demolition is done. Continue to work on the bridge substructure and the retaining wall, and still not started on the roundabout yet, but I guess that's coming soon, right, Al? So good progress. That switch changeover, took place up on 29 widening. All in all, things continue at a good pace and point toward a overall completion ahead of October 31st for all of the design build projects. So for Route 29 widening and Birkmark.
Does that mean Hillsdale is not looking like?
Hillsdale, we want to finish by October 31st. I mean, remember, Hillsdale got started behind the others.
Right.
So they're not going to be able to finish as early as it looks like the design build will. But Hal will talk a little bit about Hillsdale today. I think their progress is where it needs to be so far. So, speaking of that, Hal, we want to go into item 6.
Afternoon. Our updates today, we'll start with Rio. Work this week, as Philip mentioned, is largely punch list finish-up items, mainly small things that need to be wrapped up. Rio landscaping, I think they started last night maybe with some of the planter work. They'll be working on that the rest of this week and into the next. Rio Birkmar curb cut ramps. These are at the Birkmar Rio signal. They've been completed, and the final signal inspection is coming up. There'll be some folks here tomorrow and may have to go to Sunday if they don't get everything done by then. But that's looking good. Nighttime lane closures along 29 and Rio, primarily to finish up these punch list and inspection items over the next week. For the next 2 weeks, again, they're working on the punch list items. The curb cut ramps were completed before we finished this presentation, and essentially the same nighttime closures as needed for the final punch list items and wrap up. Don't have any photos for Rio today, nothing new significant from photos past. So we'll go to, any questions on Rio, by the way?
So those curb cuts finished?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Route 29 widening. This week they're excavating and placing stone at Ridgewood Drive. That's near the hotel. You can see that if you drive northbound, it's on your right. Setting impact attenuators for Phase 4. The Phase 4 shift is scheduled for tomorrow night. The east side of Route 29 has several more driveways, so the impact attenuators will have to be placed for all the barrier breaks along that right edge or the east edge of the roadway, so they've got more to do there. Phase 4 entrance preparations, backfill curve, fine grade stone on the Phase 3 for the north end. This is where we're the tie-in transition areas are. Reuben Lane demolition, that's a road that's being connected into Ashwood Boulevard. Permanent seating, Phase 3 turn lane construction and through lane asphalt buildup. We've got 2 major intersections where as we shift the northbound lanes to the left of where they are now, we've got to make those tie-ins at the intersection. So that is what that entails. Jack and bores are continuing for the last 2. electrical connections at Hollymead, ground mounted sign installations, the permanent signs for the southbound lanes, and the Phase 4 traffic shift, again scheduled for tomorrow night. Here's a good picture for the, Dave took this, he was standing in the, what will be the northbound lanes, and it's a good location to see where the grade differential is pretty significant here. So the existing northbound lanes are here. This is the median, the ultimate median of the 6-lane roadway, and that's a significant amount of material that needs to be excavated for the widening to the east or to the right on this picture. So you can see they've got some pavement markings they're working on. They have to get the proper lane striping down for that shift, and they're working on that today.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Obviously, for the third lane, you need to extend the same grade to the right in
Yes.
the picture. But there is also a separate service lane, the one for pedestrians, bicycles, and so on.
The shared use path?
Shared use path,
Mhm.
that's what I think about it. That path, will that be at the same grade, or will that be at the current grade, or somewhere in between?
It's a mix. In some locations, they can use the existing grade, and some they do have to fill it and tie that in so it's not too significant of a difference. Significant lane closures, obviously tomorrow night will be a big one for the shift. They've got a lot of work to do to make those tie-ins prior to the full traffic shift, and that will be the most significant work here over the next couple of days. The next 2 weeks, Pond 3 excavation and embankment. This is south of Ashwood Boulevard. Phase 4 asphalt demolition. That's the asphalt currently in the northbound lanes that will have to be taken up for the final grade to be achieved.
So what was in the far right of that?
The far right of that photo, that's correct. Curb and gutter installation, finalized structure 8 and 1 south of Hollymead. Phase 4 drainage structures to tie in all the drainage in the future widened section. And Jack and Bore structures 9-2 and 11-1.
When do we think we'll never hear about Jack and Bore?
They have a rough,
As intriguing as it is.
they had a rough go of it.
They did have a rough go of it.
I think within a few weeks that will be wrapped up.
And we kept it off a critical path, right?
That's
In terms
right.
of disruption.
They started early, thank goodness.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's
Okay.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I know who that fellow Jack is.
Al, do you mind if we go back to picture 12 for
Sure.
1 second? Or the picture on page 12. I know we've been over this numerous times, but just having a visual is helpful to me. So the phase shift that goes into effect tomorrow night, the northbound traffic will be on these lanes right in front of us.
That's correct.
And
This will be
southbound
the-
shifted over to the new lanes.
It already has been shifted.
Tomorrow night, the northbound traffic will be shifted here, and that will be the permanent configuration of the northbound.
Yeah, I think what Henry said is important. That's where the southbound had been running.
That's correct. You're right.
That's been shifted.
The southbound is now to
Right
the
now,
west.
there are where the barriers
Right.
are.
Right.
The traffic is already there. I've driven it already.
Yes.
So you can see that this is the ultimate median curve.
Right.
So here's your median, and you can see, that you're right, they've got the left lane and the southbound lanes closed now so that they can work in this area.
Yeah, these two lanes are currently closed.
That's right.
Got it.
And the shift will be from the far right into these lanes.
Taking the northbound traffic and bringing them here. So this is a construction vehicle parked up here, so that's
Someone barreling towards the photographer.
right.
Don't worry, it took me forever to understand what they're doing.
But this is south of Ashwood, and this, you can see the grade difference as you approach the intersection. That's significant difference there.
Great, thank you.
Is that helpful?
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
You don't drive that far north, do you?
Sometimes.
Any other questions on 29 widening? Okay. Berkmar, erosion control maintenance continues daily. Grade and backfill curb. I think a couple of days ago they put out about 1,500 feet of curb. They're moving pretty well on that. Placing base stone, backfill, and riprap at abutment B. backfill and MSE walls, panels at abutment A, the south abutment. Abutment A and B drainage, that's largely under drain and surface drain runoff. Tying the deck steel, you can see kind of a far-away picture of that here shortly. Completing the stay-in-place forms, or the pans, deck pans we call them. Bulkhead installation, under drain installations. I think they've completed the deck studs on top of the girders, and electrical service at Hilton Heights for the roundabout and the lighting associated with that. This was taken yesterday, and we're standing on the south side of the river.
So at abutment A.
So this is abutment A, and they're backfilling here, bringing up the MSE wall panels. You can notice a little bit of coloration difference here. So there's deck steel going on this end. You can maybe barely make out some of the studs along the beams here that they've welded all of those on. And they are set to begin paving the deck November 30, so in a couple of weeks. And that will go in several phases. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Significant lane closures this week. An occasional flagging operation. These would be short-term, primarily for equipment to get in and out of work areas. And for the next 2 weeks, erosion control again, more stone placement for base on the north end, the drainage installation around the abutments, bulkheads, and the bid well paving machine. That's what you may have remembered from the Rio project. It's a big, wide paving machine to put the concrete pavement down. Abutment A MSE panel installation, tying deck steel, and weekly seeding for the erosion control and stabilization.
So we're keeping up with
Yes.
our erosion and sediment control the way we need to.
We are. We're staying on that, and we talked about that a little bit more this morning in our hot topics. So,
Okay.
Does grass grow this late in the season?
With weather like it is, it can, yes. Mid-November is about the typical limit of the planting season, but it doesn't sound like this weather's going to hold up too long for next week, but it can, and if we get some rain, that can help too. So. Flagging operation, now this, when they get to paving the bridge deck, there'll be longer closures, probably more like a 6 to 8 hour midday closure for the deck paving when they're going over top of Rio Mills, so that concrete might not spill over onto cars underneath if a little bit goes off there. And they've got some storm drainage to take across Rio Mills Road as well. So there'll be probably early to mid-December for some of those longer closures of Rio Mills Road for that work. Hillsdale, any questions on Burkmar?
You know, I was looking at the picture of tying the steel today, looking online, and one of the, thank you. One of the questions I had is, you know, I just assumed they were going to have expansion joints at the row column rows, but it didn't look like that from the picture. And I was just wondering, do they have expansion joints, or is this one continual pour?
We do have joints on the ends, and what I'll do
just
is
at the ends. There's
we'll
not
get you
inside. Okay.
We'll get you some good pictures.
I was just curious. That was because it's 600 something feet, right?
715.
Yeah.
So, okay, over 600, but I was impressed. Okay.
How do you avoid that? Do you just, are you going to have any issues? Is it angle of sun exposure? What's the?
I'm not a structural engineer, so I would have to defer to
It's not,
structural engineers
it's
on
not,
that.
the joints
But
are,
it is.
the joints are needed
Yes.
at the ends,
We
at
do.
the abutment.
In fact, I think
So at each break,
at the abutments,
at each button, okay. all
I
right.
think we showed a picture of that last meeting
Yeah.
where those tooth joints will be placed. So those
All
are
right,
the
I got you.
big expansion joints.
I just was thinking the ends were at the
When you say
ultimate
two
ends.
joints, is joints that are
Yeah.
like this?
That's right.
Okay.
Metal
So
ones.
essentially, they allow for much larger movement
That's right.
That's what they're for.
That's
Yeah.
right.
than
Yeah.
regular little
Absolutely.
tar joint, like in the old days. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's
And-
why-
and the
That's why
bearings-
you avoid them in between by having this large
Yeah.
capacity.
Remember, we talked about the bearings. and
I
why
know the
they're there.
bearings, but-
Things have to have a place to move, and that's what the expansion joints
Yeah,
do.
but never thought about what does it look on top. Yeah, okay. Now I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions on Berkmar? Okay, Hillsdale, the contractor continues to place fill at Greenbrier and Hillsdale. That's the stormwater management pond that's being essentially moved to the east for the roadway to go connect in there at a four-way stop. Continuing fill between the Pepsi plant and the post office. That's bringing up the road grade with the wall there. The modular wall excavation undercut between Pepsi and the post office. Underdrain and subbase in the Homewood Suites area at the south end of the roadway. We've got a good picture of that. Building subcontractor continues to work to restore the exterior face of the building where the building was cleaved for the road to go through. Grading at the intersection of India and Line Drive and Abutment B pile driving. That's the south abutment. Don't have a picture of that. We can show you Abutment A here, but that's beginning as well. They had to move some things to get that going. No significant lane closures this week. And this is a shot taken from the south abutment area looking to the north. This is the, maybe my battery's gone. The post office property here, this is the Pepsi building, and this is where the roadway is going right between here. This is abutment A, and I think they poured that maybe yesterday. So that's the bridge abutment on the north side of the swale. This picture is, again, looking to the north. We're on the south end of the project, just beyond Whole Foods, which would be behind us to the right. This is Homewood Suites property, the hotel, and you can see the road grade is pretty well prepared to subbase going behind that hotel. This comes in and ties into Seminole Court, where the roundabout will be. This is the west building, the east face, the east wall of the west building section. And this is the part where the building contractor is preparing that exterior finish work. The road will be going through here. Over the next couple of weeks, continuing on the modular wall excavation and undercut, continuing placement of fill at Greenbrier and Hillsdale, the underdrain and subbase stone at Homewood Suites. I'm told that they are intending to try to open up that section. Henry, you're probably interested in this, maybe late December. They've talked about maybe trying to get that section opened up. And, building subcontractor continues work on the building and grading at the intersection of India and Line Drive. And no significant coming lane closures on Hillsdale.
Can we go back a little bit to this?
Sure.
Last week, a young lady had a nice map here, and that's what we talked about, the roundabout.
Jeanette? Mm-hmm.
And she said that, everything will be barricaded around the roundabout for how many weeks did she say?
I want to say 3. I can't remember exactly how
I
many.
can't remember either. But it caught me by surprise, and the more I think about it, we did a great job on Rye Road GSI. And here, we're going back to the old ways of VDOT. Put a barricade up and let people fend for themselves, kind of. I'm exaggerating slightly, but that roundabout is at the same grade than the current intersection, give or take. I think that with a little bit of clever phasing and some night work, you wouldn't have any need for barricades, would you?
Well, that's, again, the city is administering that with the contractor.
Well, yeah.
Who's doing it?
Yeah.
I'm not here to, get excuses. to
So,
do
so play that out a little
Yeah,
bit more.
I'm saying, it's a roundabout, you know, which by definition, you have the intersection is very tight, the roundabout goes around it. It occurs to me that, you know, if you build that cleverly, you know, and yeah, it's an inconvenience for the contractor, you know, the project gets a little bit more complicated, just like the GSI was complicated. But I think you can build that and minimize closures there, especially do some night work and do, you know, the outer periphery of that roundabout.
I've seen that.
Barricade that. Pardon?
I've seen roundabouts like that done.
Exactly, I don't think that's.
Yeah, look,
rocket science.
let us, Jeanette will be back here on the 1st. I'll talk to her and relay the comment to her. And, we'll come and talk about what some options might be, the implication of the options.
Yeah, I
That's-
mean, I'm sure that,
Yeah.
from the construction point of view, sure, you're barricaded, you're happy, nobody's bothering you, you work out there, you know, and your heart's content, and you don't have to worry about it. But maintaining traffic, I think is important. And granted, I no longer have any interest in that car wash because they paid me in full and so on. But first of all, I found out that the manager didn't know anything about it. So I guess there's been no communication, or if there has been, he must have been asleep. He felt that in his guts that it may happen, and he's worried about it because the peak season for a car wash, believe it or not, is the winter, especially after a snowstorm.
Right.
So all of a sudden, be reduced to access through essentially Zan Road becomes a stub, and be limited to that is not something that they look forward. And occasionally you have backups, you know, when everybody decides to wash the car. With the current setup, you know, they can back up along Zan Road and then into, I guess it's India Road, you know, for hundreds of feet. The other way, before you know it, they're backed up into 29.
Right.
So, when I first heard about it, I said, oh, I don't own the car wash anymore, why should I worry about it? But then I realized I'm here as a citizen as well, and I said,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily
Well, I mean,
a good idea. And
I'll check in with our.
it's not a great challenge. I mean, it is more of a challenge than just putting up barricades.
well, let us chat back with the city, and like I said, she is going to start attending our meetings, I think, on a regular basis once we get after the first of the year. She'll definitely be here next 2 weeks from now, and I think it's a good thing to ask about, see what the options are, see what the implications and costs might be associated with each option.
Now, based on the schedule, you know, if nothing changes, those barricades are going on around Christmas time, right?
Yeah,
That's about right.
So you don't have a lot of time.
yeah.
But you're right, there are ways you can work around it. My assumption is they've weighed the pros and cons
Oh, sure, I
of
mean,
all
dollars
this.
and cents.
But,
in
but I'll
simplicity.
certainly check
I'll
with-
do it myself if I'm in their shoes and nobody stops me, or nobody, you know, gives me different guidelines. Yeah.
I'll check with our construction manager, who oversees that, and get some more background on it as well. We can talk to the city about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a cost difference and stuff like that, but something that I think would be part of this new VDOT approach of doing things quickly and with the least interference.
One of the obvious reasons would be to shorten the duration of the work. But I'll get some more information.
It's about a circle of
how
project.
that-
Okay, it shortens, I don't know, yes.
Look, it's a fair question. Let us chase it down,
I
and
think
they did.
it deserves a look.
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, okay.
Very good.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? Thanks.
Al, thank you. Sure. With respect to Hillsdale, Starting next week, I'll also be folding in comments that the city is getting directly. Because Jeanette is getting those and starting to send them to us. And I know they had some comments about some ADA requirements. They had some comments about some possible crosswalk locations. We'll compile those and start sharing those just the way we've been sharing the other project comments that are coming in from citizens. On the budget, a pretty big paycheck since last time we checked in. Invoice from Lane Corman on the design build projects. Nothing really changing here. I think we'll probably see that number go down. Remember, this exposure number is something that doesn't often get, frankly, I don't know of too many places that track exposure. I think it's real important, but it's kind of a guess.
It's an educated guess.
It's an educated guess of what might be hanging out there, and the more you manage this, the better you do here.
Oh, yeah.
So Dave has really done a good job of making that educated guess of what might be hanging out there. The Route 29-250 interchange, Best Buy ramp, this has got to get cleaned up. Dave and I talked about that. Now that that's wound down, we know that this is the final invoice. This has got to get squared off. What's eventually been flowed over from exposure to approved change orders. And as that thing is closing out, we'll clean up that piece of the budget. We're not going to see anything happen here for a while until after we finish construction. Hillsdale, a little bigger invoice popped in, total amount that's been invoiced. Still just getting started, so no big news there. Things from, as far as change from October, $12.6 million invoiced, so a commensurate drop in remaining contract value, and still looking good between our anticipated construction value versus what's budgeted for construction in the 6-year improvement program. And it's no time to declare victory, but need to keep a close look there. Just finished a project in another part of the state where we were able to hand back $20 million to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and that's a good way to finish. That's a good way to finish. Any questions here? All righty. The plant list for the bridge deck at Rio, and this isn't colored in, but you've got it in front of you there with the plant legend on the right, and to see how that's distributed in the round planters as well as the rectangular planters. The other side of the bridge looks just the same. So for those of you that like lily turf and pink molly grass, you should be pleased. Morgan, if I recall correctly, we had a plant list. We reviewed it with Kenan, and we did make some changes in that plant list based on the review with him. Isn't that right, Dave? We did make some changes here.
Yeah, muley grass sounds vaguely familiar, but that stuff has long since left my...
Yes. And this will be maintained under the corridor agreement with the county, right? entrance corridor agreement.
Well, that was going to be my question is, because I know that we talked before about that there would be a period where the contractor remains responsible for this, and trying to make sure I understand how long the contractor is remaining responsible for this.
Dave?
Well, we do have a warranty period. We
Right.
do want to keep it alive. And I believe the warranty period under this contract is longer than most. I believe it's 3 years.
Oh, wow.
I'd have to check back, it may be, I believe it's 3 years.
Oh, that's good.
Push
The
back
famous,
was around over on that.
the 1-year warranties they get at Lowe's, you know.
Yeah.
Your plant will die the week after.
Batteries and plants, I don't know how they do it, but
Yeah.
they seem to be able to.
Yeah, after the year is up, it dies.
That's something we could nail down for Mark, right?
Yeah, if you could, because I'm just trying to make sure, we're in our FY18 budgeting period right now.
I
Just
know
to
it's
make
at
sure.
least 2 years, but I believe it might be as long as 3 years.
All right,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Good deal. Good deal. Kristen had asked, go ahead, Kristen had asked for an idea of what was going to be installed at the Best Buy ramp 29250, and won't read through all this. Dave was kind enough to color this up a little bit and highlight what was going to be planted. But this is at the south end for red maples. You'll see on the next sheet that the red maples continue. Red bud, swamp white oak, still on the south side of 250. And then a continuation of some sweet gum to the north. This is Angus Road. I'm pretty sure that says Angus, right? That's Angus Road. I think there's one more. And just a continuation up to the end of the planting area. And speaking of Best Buy ramp planting, well, there's one more. I forgot about the reforestation area in the stormwater management area. This is going to be a variety of evergreen and deciduous trees that are a little less specified in terms of number, right, Dave? That would be in that stormwater management area. We said last time that bids had gone out, or the contract was out, and we got no bids for the landscaping. That was rebid one day last week, and I just really don't know which day it was. Bids are due December 1st, so it'll be the day of our next meeting, and some of the restrictions were pulled out of that contract to open it up to a little bit bigger audience for contracting. So hopefully we will still, well, not hopefully, obviously we're going to miss this planting season, and that would be for the spring. So we won't know our next meeting, but we should know by the end of that day whether we got any bids or not. When do they open those bids?
December 1st.
December 1st. Do you remember what time?
Yeah, I know. It's usually late in the afternoon.
Yeah. So we probably won't know until the day after. Joel, anything to report on signal timing?
Philip, we have one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one about the off-ramp at 250 Best Buy off-ramp. Those drainage areas are opportunities. I happen to live actually not too far from there and was noticing a lot of foot traffic going underneath the underpass there, and it's kind of dangerous. I'm not expecting any miracles anytime soon, but I know that from a program in New England in which on the federal highways they were replacing culverts with box culverts, and given the height there, they always said on the New England projects, if it doesn't require any bridge changes, that they could get a bigger box culvert that would allow pedestrians to go through. They would just put them in as a matter of course when they were next coming through. And there is an opportunity in that area without changing any of your plans. And I just was wondering if anybody had looked at that, because it is a little bit dangerous for those pedestrians.
Well, the construction area is finished.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the construction project, it's.
Okay.
You mean they're going on the
It's
south, going south, like next to the southbound lanes going through there?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be getting on the sidewalk in the median.
I'm sorry?
They're supposed to be getting the sidewalk.
I know, but I've
Yeah.
seen an awful lot of people
Yeah.
not doing that, and it's not, and again, if you're going from, say, the Best Buy to the Rivanna Trail going west there, you're less inclined to cross the street to go to the middle, to then cross back over that street to go that way, and I see a lot of people not doing that. So not that it's like there is a way around it right now, no issue, but I just thought as a part of this, could we at least put a letter in the file the next time they're replacing the drainage, to put that in?
Let's stay focused here.
That's interesting.
I mean, that comment noted, and we will see where that goes, but the project is finished. Signal time.
Okay.
Joel.
So last time we spoke about signal timings, they were looking, they got the AM peak hour, they thought it was working pretty well. They had not implemented the offsets for the PM peak hour and the midday timings. And those we said last time would be implemented by the end of this year. So they have not implemented those yet. However, I did talk to Grant yesterday and the day before and today, and he thinks that the AM peak hours are working pretty well now. He's got some minor tweaks to them. And we hope to see the midday and the PM improving as we move forward. I would say that one of the things I wanted to bring up today was that we saw a big advantage. You know, one of the first projects we did out here was to upgrade the signals. We've talked about what advantages we're seeing from them. Last Tuesday was one of those times when we saw an advantage to those signals out there being upgraded, having cameras and the real-time ability to change traffic patterns on the corridor. Election day, we expected a lot of side street traffic increases at school polling locations. The one most significant was Woodbrook. And I want to talk about 3 different intersections in the county. NWRO went out and they located all polling locations in Albemarle County, and they identified ones that would have signals that might be affected by them. The 3 I talked to Grant about specifically today were the 2 in Crozet, Henley, Brownsville, the signal there on 250, Western Albemarle High School. Now, for those 2 signals, he went out on Monday before the election, and he reprogrammed those signals on site, and he gave the side streets additional time so we could see traffic going in and out of those schools for the polling locations. We'd see those signals working better. At Woodbrook, it was a little bit different because the through traffic on 29 is a lot heavier in those locations. He didn't want to go out and just reprogram that signal, but he was able on that day, throughout the day, we were all working 7 to 7 or 6 to whenever the polling locations were open. So was traffic. They actually monitored Woodbrook throughout the day, and they made adjustments they would flush the traffic if needed going in or out of that site. He didn't have to make changes for the whole day. He didn't have to go out there and reprogram them. He could monitor it throughout the day and make adjustments. And it was a balancing act of trying to keep the north and southbound traffic moving efficiently and also clearing out that traffic. So we saw an advantage there. I also spoke with him. Hopefully coming up here we'll see an advantage over the holiday season. He brought up this next Sunday as an option, high traffic day for Thanksgiving, as a time where he'll be on call basically to do the same sorts of things to see if we're having problems that they can flush that traffic. So we're starting to see advantage of that. It doesn't necessarily relate entirely to the green bands that we're seeing. We'll talk more about that, I think, at the December, the first meeting in December, we'll have some more information on that. But I wanted to bring that up today because I thought it was we're getting some real advantages for this traffic.
So Joel, these are things that Grant would not have otherwise been able to do if we hadn't done the phase 1, split the adaptive signals up into phases.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, the examples in Crozet, he had to go out there, set them on Monday, and then probably go out on Wednesday or Tuesday afternoon and reset them back. If he had done that at Woodbrook, you know, it's a little more sensitive out there. If he didn't have that capability, he would have gone out on Monday to Woodbrook, made some assumptions of the heavier traffic, made those changes, it would have had impacts to the north and southbound 29 traffic. Since he could monitor it, he was able to change that as needed, and it could make all the traffic flow more efficiently. So we'll be looking through the holiday season for more advantages to that, and hopefully good flow on 29 because of it.
At some point, Joel, next, maybe in the spring, it would be good to come back and update the panel on phase 2 and what's going to be happening and what we would expect from that full implementation of the adaptive signal system. Or have Grant come back.
Maybe Grant can talk to us about that. The adaptive, so the signals all had to be upgraded or
That's a whole different language.
to take on the adaptive technology. The adaptive has not been put into place because they didn't, because of the changes in traffic patterns, they didn't want to let the adaptive take over. They were afraid it'd be more impactful. Once the corridor starts to normalize again, putting it in, we might see some real advantages. So that's a good.
But it was some discussions that took place in here that pulled out that phase 1. Remember, and said let's go ahead and get that in so we can use it during construction, and I think we've seen the benefits of that. That's great.
Just one quick point of clarification on the offset timing adjustments. We already made one adjustment. That was kind of round 1, and the offsets that you were talking about are round 2. So they're much smaller adjustments.
Yeah.
And what we'll talk about next time is we're going to go over a little bit of the process that Grant goes through to make those adjustments and kind of give you an idea of what's involved with doing that.
I think you can just stay up there,
Stay right
Joel,
here.
and
Also,
cover the accident.
Crashes. Thank you. So these, we have data through the end of July now. So we pulled data from on the limits of construction for Rio for the time period that we had the Rio shutdown, the crossover shutdown. We wanted to see what traffic patterns. Now this is the year before in 2015. What I notice about this is the green dots are rear end crashes. I gotta reference my first crashes here. Green dots are rear end. So you see the southbound there. You see a lot of the rear end crashes going southbound. You see one going northbound there. Could be congestion from the traffic signal at Rio Road. That's typically where you're going to see the types of crashes like that. The blue crashes down here. For those of you who can see blue, these are angle collisions, normally happen in intersections. You see they are lining up with the intersections for the most part. And you got a side swipe right here. The red is a side swipe. And, purple right here. The purple is a fixed object, usually run off the road. This is a similar pattern to what we've seen on this section of 29. If you go to the next slide, it's kind of interesting. Once again, the blue is the angle collisions. We put the intersection into Berkmar, and we saw angle collisions start to occur there. Pretty normal expectation there, especially for a new location. Same kind of angle here. You see some side swipes here in the rear end. We probably had some congestion going through during the shutdown. What's interesting you don't see as much of is the approach to the intersection. We seem to see a little bit of less rear end. It'll be really interesting. What I noticed about the patterns is they shifted up to Woodbrook. Some of this stuff.
So this was during the full shutdown. Well,
this is during
the shutdown period.
Yes.
Yeah.
The full extent of the shutdown. And this is interesting that we saw the crashes. I think it's expected here with some of the side swipes and things with the narrowing the lanes. But it's interesting to see the crashes, how they kind of went up to Woodbrook a little bit. And you see the green coming south, probably where your merge areas where you had some congestion there. You see a couple greens in the northbound direction. Now, this kind of ties into, I think it ties a little bit into what we're going to see with the traffic patterns out here and the signals here. One of the things that, as we looked at the offsets here, the first thing you do when you time this corridor to get your green offsets is to identify your critical intersection. Your critical intersection is the intersection that basically has the lowest level of service of all of them. And we've gone from a situation from 15 to 16 to now, where Rio Road is no longer our critical intersection. Rio Road used to be the critical intersection in this corridor that basically set everything else for this corridor. It meant it was the most congested intersection we had. Now that we've made this change, the critical intersection is now Woodbrook. So it'll be really interesting as we move forward to look at crashes on the corridor to see if they start to shift up, because we saw a little bit here. I wouldn't say a month's worth of data is going to tell you much of anything.
Well, plus
something to
this
take a
is
look at.
in the heat of the construction period.
It's in the heat of the construction period, but you see that the accidents are up where the congestion was. So as we look at next month's data, and if we keep looking at this, it'll be interesting to see if we start seeing a little bit less density here and more density up there. It would make sense that that would happen, but it'll be interesting to see. The other thing that we were talking about a little bit on crashes that you brought up, some of the weaving issues we have. Hopefully by December, one of the meetings in December, we'll have some data post-construction or as the intersection was open. And as we start seeing that crash data, unfortunately crashes are going to happen no matter what. As we start seeing that crash data come in, we'll start to see areas that we might have to take a little bit closer look at safety out here.
So this is July. You think in December we might see a full month of August?
I hope so. As of today, we did not have August data yet.
Remind everybody where you're pulling this information from.
This comes
and how it gets there.
This is the reason it's months behind is because if you the police keep all the records in the TRED system. It's called the TRED system. The problem with the TRED system for us is you can't really, it's not a very easily searchable database. You have to basically go through each police report if you're looking for good traffic data. What VDOT does is we have folks in central office that take the TREDS reports month by month, and they basically put it in searchable areas. So I can do a search easily on 29, a buffer search or a search for intersection to intersection like that, and I can return only the relative results to that. So I can easily find what I need to. If you went to the police station and asked them for crash data, it's very hard for them to search and get you accurate locations and things for crash data. So it takes our folks a little bit of time to take all the police reports and put them in our database and get them with geospatial data, I guess that's what it is. So that's
So
why
Joel, what about the number? The number in this period of 2015 and just the raw number.
How many crashes?
Yeah.
I got that. In the period of 2015, we had 13, and then during the construction period, we had 20 total.
Okay.
We had 3 injuries in the period in 2015 and 2 injuries in the construction period.
So 13
and 20 total crashes.
13 and 20, 3 and 2 in terms of injuries.
And the increase, let's see. I should be able to tell you what. The largest increase in crashes during the construction period was side swipes, which is not too surprising. We went from 1 to 6. Everything else was about the same. That was the biggest difference.
Okay.
Making the right turn on the Rio Road going
What's that?
westbound was a challenge.
Making the right turn.
And you do see,
See a
couple of side swipes.
That was scary.
Could be because of that.
I did
it once. I never did it again.
I did it a few times. It was because you also had that sight distance
You couldn't
issue.
see anything.
Yeah.
And they were coming fast.
Yeah.
They were not slowing down.
Well, we kept 29 open, like we said. Joel, thanks. This is important to keep track of as we move forward, and TREDS might be a little behind, but we need to have consistent data too.
It's good data.
Yeah. All right. I don't have anything in new business. Henry?
No, I Ray said my piece.
Yeah, and thank you.
Or not.
Don't have anything either. Thank
Mark,
you.
just to kind of follow up on the signals, trying to get an idea when we might have the phase 2 operational, and then try to, also, maybe started wondering, we had those other signals over there, hydraulic in Georgetown and the others that we've done some work to, is there anything that changes with those now that the projects are finished?
Oh, as far as the time, well, those were all upgraded, weren't, I believe.
Yeah, they
those
were
signals
upgraded,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering, is
They're gonna
anything
stay
change with
upgraded, we're
them?
not gonna downgrade them again.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah.
No, those will
Well,
stay there. I'm hoping
what-
to see a benefit at Barracks Road because of that.
Well, I think I was gonna say, I think I've seen that, I've been trying to watch Georgetown Barracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It appears to be, I've gotten
He's
a
got
lot
the same
better.
capabilities as those signals. Those are all upgraded
Okay.
as the 29 corridor was.
So he can do those sitting over there and,
What I'm thinking about phase
okay.
2 is, as Lane Corman's completion date potentially advances, do we want to advance phase 2
Yeah, that's kind of the
with
question I
the
was wondering.
understanding that Hillsdale is still there,
Right,
but we got to get back to thinking about phase 2,
right, but, you know.
perhaps
if you've got
before
Route 29
post-October.
If you got Route 29 basically done, but you still don't have Hillsdale, you may not have Burtmar, so,
I think we will.
you know.
I think we got to be thinking about that now. I think we got to be thinking about that phase 2.
Yeah, and what we've seen recently is an acceleration of the overall schedule
Yeah.
for the design build projects. And right now, and I'm not afraid to say this just because it's not set in stone, but it's starting to look like July,
Summerish.
July, summertime period, they finish up, because there's still that $1.3 million incentive.
Right.
For overall early completion that they're going after. So if we start really seeing that it's gonna be looking like July, we need to open a dialogue with
Yeah.
NWRO and see if we can move that up, which I'm sure we can. The benefit of that is we can get it in place well before the holiday season, and then go ahead and activate it, work out any bugs, so that once holiday season is here, it's active.
I just think it's important, while everything looks like Burkmar and Route 29 widening
Right.
will wrap up
Summerish.
early summer, July. That's the way it looks sitting here today. But knowing that it looks that that's a possibility, we need to engage in that discussion about phase 2, wrapping up the adaptive.
Right, that's kind of what I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
And then you just, whenever Hillsdale comes on, you're just basically reviewing and seeing if you.
Yeah, I think so.
Tune the system.
Hillsdale shouldn't really affect.
It shouldn't affect
I
much,
think
but-
that's well, actually, as I think about it, if phase 2 is in place,
Right,
it ought to do its thing, right? As Hillsdale comes online. Might still be some
yeah.
tweaking and adjustments.
And the biggest component of it is ordering the equipment,
Yeah.
having that on hand.
Yeah.
Ready. There's not.
You know,
very little work left.
we better start talking about this tomorrow and thinking through it, because you're right. Ordering the equipment, getting it in.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, it proves that 3 people are as powerful as 9, and thank you guys for coming. Our next meeting is set for December 1st, and we still have December 15th on the books, and then we'll go to we can talk about that more December 1st if the 15th does or doesn't work for everybody, and then we'll roll into our once a month.
Third
The
Thursday.
third Thursday, so, yeah, the 19th, the 16th, and the 16th
All right.
is for January, February, March. And then remember, we said we'd kind of step back and say, all right, is this once a month thing working? And I think part of that would be, if we do stick with once a month, an interim update on key issues, some schedule for that. And I know some folks have talked to me about whether they do or don't want to continue next year. Everybody's welcome to, and if it's something you think you don't want to do, or if the elected bodies are contemplating any change, that's fine as well. Just like to have an opportunity to talk about that before anything happens. So thanks. Enjoy next week, and for those that fix big meals and have a big holiday, enjoy it, but be safe. And we're done. Thank you. Yeah, well, phase 2 is going to be.
I didn't think about it till y'all started talking about it.
Well, Dave talked to me today about where these guys might be headed on the schedule. Not that it was a surprise. But